My son trembled when his mom came at night. He said, "Dad, please don't go." I set up a camera. What I saw froze me. I didn't know what to say when my 8-year-old whispered those words. He clutched my shirt like he was afraid something would pull me away. "Dad, please, don't go tonight." And the part that hit me hardest wasn't his voice. It was how he kept staring at our bedroom door as if he expected someone to walk in. I didn't understand anything at that moment. Nothing made sense. But now that I think about it, maybe the signs were there long before he spoke. "Eli," I said gently, brushing his hair from his forehead. "Why are you shaking? Did something happen?" "No," he whispered quickly. Too quickly. "I'm fine. Just stay." His hands were cold. His breathing was uneven. And when my wife, Mia, called from the hallway, "Everything okay in there?" Eli's whole body flinched so hard the bed moved. That was the first time my stomach truly dropped. "Yeah," I answered, trying to sound normal. "Just tucking him in." Eli pressed himself against my side, whispering, "Please don't let her come in." I froze. Why would he say that about his own mother? I didn't ask anything else that night. I didn't want to scare him more. But when I kissed him goodnight and stepped back, he grabbed my wrist again. "Dad, don't leave me alone." "Eli, she's your mom," I reminded him softly. "She loves you." He didn't answer. He just looked at me with those wide, sleepless eyes like a kid who'd been carrying a secret too heavy for his age. And I walked out of the room wondering what in the world was happening inside my own home. That's when everything changed for me. The next morning, I tried again. During breakfast, I asked, "Eli, were you scared last night? Did you have a nightmare?" He hesitated, glanced at his mom, then shook his head. Mia smiled at him. "I told you, love, it's just a phase. He's growing." But Eli kept his head down the whole time, barely touching his cereal. Later, when Mia stepped outside to take a call, I crouched next to him. "Talk to me, buddy. You know you can tell me anything." He whispered, "Dad, when you travel, she comes into my room." "Your mom?" He nodded. "What does she do?" Before he could answer, Mia popped her head back inside. "Everything good?" He instantly went silent. That silence haunted me all day. By evening, I tried again, this time when Mia had gone to shower. "Eli," I said, sitting on his bed, "just tell me what's going on." He fidgeted with his blanket. "Dad, when you're gone, she says strange things." "What kind of things?" I don't know. She talks like she's not mom. She cries. Sometimes she sits on the floor. Sometimes she stands by the window. And..." He paused, swallowing hard. "And she doesn't look at me. She looks through me." My heart skipped. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "She told me I just dream it. But I'm awake, Dad. I'm awake." "And that's why you get scared when she comes in at night?" He nodded. "I don't think she knows she's doing it." That sentence stuck with me. I didn't know what he meant. But that night, when I pretended to sleep and Mia quietly slipped out of bed around midnight, every hair on my arm stood up. I got up too, slowly opening the door just enough to see the hallway. She was walking toward Eli's room, barefoot, silent, head slightly tilted, like she was listening to something far away. I didn't call her. I didn't move. I just watched her go inside. I waited. 1 minute. 3 minutes. 10. Nothing. No crying. No talking. No unusual noises. When she finally came out, her eyes looked half open, unfocused. She walked back to our room, got into bed, and fell asleep instantly. And all I could think was, what is happening to my wife? The next morning, when I gently asked her, "Did you go to Eli's room last night?" she looked confused. "What? No. Why would I?" "You didn't get out of bed? Not even once?" "No," she insisted. "I slept straight." My blood ran cold. Eli wasn't lying. She didn't remember. And that's when a thought hit me so fast my chest tightened. What if she was sleepwalking? What if Eli had been watching this for weeks, months, without understanding it? That night, after everyone was asleep, I sat alone in the living room, replaying everything in my head. His trembling, his dark circles, his whispers, his fear of nighttime, his fear of her. I needed proof, something clear, something undeniable. Not to accuse her, but to understand. So the next morning, I bought a small camera and hid it in Eli's bookshelf. He didn't even notice. That night, I kissed him goodnight and whispered, "I'm right here, okay?" He nodded nervously. "Dad, you promise you won't leave?" "I promise." But later, when Mia thought I was asleep, she got up again. I watched her go down the hall. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera app, and my breath caught in my throat. On the screen, Mia stood inside Eli's room, not moving, just standing there, staring at him. He was awake, eyes wide, frozen with fear. And then she whispered something that made my entire body tense. "Why did you leave me?" Eli shook his head rapidly, terrified. "Mom, I'm right here," he whispered, voice shaking. But she didn't seem to hear him. She sank to her knees beside his bed, one hand on the floor, her shoulders shaking like she was crying, silently. Eli curled into himself, whispering, "Dad, please come back. Please come back." I watched all of it, unable to move. My wife wasn't hurting him. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even conscious. But the scene was haunting, heartbreaking, utterly confusing. And then she whispered again, "I'm so sorry. I couldn't save you." Save who? Eli? Someone else? Something from her past I didn't know? I lowered the phone, suddenly realizing this wasn't just sleepwalking. This was something deeper. Something she'd never told me. Something connected to a pain I didn't know she carried. And as I stood there shaking, staring at my phone, watching my son tremble and my wife cry in her sleep, I asked myself the question that would change everything. What happened to her before our son was born? And why was it coming back now? I didn't sleep at all that night. Not after watching Mia kneel beside our son's bed, crying to someone who wasn't there. When morning came, I made coffee just to keep my hands from shaking. Mia walked into the kitchen humming, acting like nothing happened. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked casually. I stared at her. "Do you remember anything from last night?" She froze for just a second but forced a smile. "That's a strange question. Why wouldn't I?" "Because," I said softly, "you keep getting up in the middle of the night." She blinked, twice, then laughed. "You're dreaming, Daniel. I haven't left the bed." Eli, who was pouring milk in his bowl, stiffened at her reply. I didn't push. Not yet. Not until I understood what was happening. Later, when she left to pick up groceries, I sat with Eli. "Buddy," I said gently, "when Mom comes into your room at night, has she ever hurt you?" "No," he said quickly. "She never touches me. She just cries, says things that scare me, like she's talking to someone else." "Someone else?" I asked. He nodded. "Sometimes she says, 'I'm sorry I didn't protect you.' Sometimes she says, 'Why did you leave?' But she never talks to me. She doesn't even look at me." "And you're awake every time?" "Yes, Dad, I'm awake." His voice cracked. "I don't know why she cries. I don't know who she's talking to, but it feels like she's sad about someone I don't know." My chest tightened. He was just a kid. He shouldn't have to decode adult pain at midnight. I squeezed his shoulder. "We're going to figure this out. You're not alone." He whispered, "Promise?" "I promise." That evening, I decided to confront the truth head on. "Mia," I said as we cleaned up after dinner, "I need to ask you something personal. Something important." She glanced at me. "You're making me nervous. What is it?" "Before Eli was born, did something happen that you never talked about?" Her entire expression changed. Like a switch was flipped. She set the dish down slowly, her hands trembling almost imperceptibly. "Why are you asking that?" she whispered. Because, I said calmly, you've been sleepwalking and saying things, emotional things, about losing someone, about not saving someone. She turned pale. I don't sleepwalk, she said firmly, but her voice cracked. Mia, last night I saw you. I heard you. You were crying in Eli's room. Silence filled the kitchen so thick it felt heavy. Finally, she whispered, I didn't want you to know. Know what? She swallowed hard. Then her eyes filled with tears she couldn't hide. Before we had Eli, I had a pregnancy you never knew about. My stomach dropped. I didn't even breathe. It was early, only a few weeks. I was scared, and you were starting a new job. I didn't want to stress you. I thought I could handle it alone, until I knew for sure. Her voice shook. But I lost the baby. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I told myself it didn't matter, because we hadn't told anyone. But it did matter, more than I wanted to admit. The room felt frozen. And now? I asked quietly. She exhaled shakily. Dr. Patel said unresolved grief can show up in strange ways. Nightmares, sleepwalking, emotional episodes. But I thought I moved on. I didn't think it was still inside me. And the things you say at night? The crying? I asked. She nodded. When I sleep, I dream I'm talking to the baby I lost, apologizing, wishing I could protect them. Sometimes I see Eli in the dream because he's the age the baby would have been. Tears rolled down her face. I never meant to scare him. God, I didn't even know I was doing it. I let out a long, shaky breath. Not from anger, but relief. Not at what had happened, but at what hadn't happened. Eli wasn't imagining things. Mia wasn't lying. And no one was being harmed. Just a family dealing with an invisible wound. I asked her gently, why didn't you tell me all this before? Because I didn't want you to think I was broken. I stepped closer. Mia, all this time I thought something terrible was happening. I didn't know it was pain. Real pain. Hidden pain. She covered her face, crying silently. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't want Eli to see me like that. I didn't want you to worry. I hugged her then, not because everything was okay, but because I finally understood. And because she needed someone to say, you're not alone. Later that night, we sat with Eli on the couch. Buddy, I said softly, Mom wants to talk to you. He curled beside me nervously. Mia wiped her eyes and said, Eli, I'm sorry I scared you. I didn't know I was doing those things. I didn't know I was crying in your room. You weren't mad at me? He whispered. No, sweetheart, she said, shaking her head. I wasn't talking to you. I was dreaming about something from before you were born, something sad that I didn't deal with the right way. He hesitated, then asked quietly, Are you going to be okay now? Mia looked at me, and I nodded for her to continue. I'm going to get help, she said. A real doctor. And Dad's helping me too. You're safe, Eli. You've always been safe. He stared at her for a long moment, then whispered, Can we sleep with the hallway light on again? Mia smiled softly. Yes, absolutely. And, he added shyly, can Dad stay home a little more until we fix this? I hugged him tighter. I already talked to my boss, I said. No more long trips for now. I'm staying. His shoulders relaxed for the first time in weeks. Over the next month, things slowly changed. Mia started therapy. Eli slept better. I stopped traveling long distances. And every night, before turning off the lights, Eli would look at us and ask quietly, Everything okay tonight? We always answered the same thing. Yes, everything's okay. And the amazing thing is, he finally believed it. One evening, after a family counseling session, Eli whispered to me, Dad, Mom doesn't cry at night anymore. No, I smiled, kissing his head. She doesn't. Do you think she's getting better? I nodded. We all are. His next question hit me right in the chest. Dad, other families go through things like this too, right? Yes, I said honestly. A lot of families. More than you think. So, we're not weird? No, buddy, I chuckled. We're human. He smiled a real smile. Not forced. Not scared. Just relieved. Months later, Mia told me something I'll never forget. Daniel, if Eli hadn't been scared, if you hadn't checked the camera, I don't know when I would have realized how much pain I was still carrying. I squeezed her hand. Sometimes our kids save us without knowing. She nodded. And sometimes we save them by listening. Looking back now, I still think about that night, the fear, the confusion, the heartbreak. But I also think about the question I want every viewer of this story to ask themselves. How many families are carrying invisible pain that nobody talks about? How many kids sense something is wrong before adults even realize it? How many partners sleep beside someone who is hurting, but don't know the signs? If you're watching this, maybe ask yourself, is someone in your home carrying a silent burden and you haven't noticed yet? Sometimes all it takes is one conversation, one question, one night of paying attention to save a family from falling apart quietly. Our story didn't end in tragedy. It ended in healing. Not because we were perfect, but because finally we listened. And if this reminds you of someone in your own life, maybe this is your sign to check in on them. You might save them the way Eli saved his mother, without even knowing it.